With the NBA trade deadline being 2 days away, I'm going to be giving you guys my official trade deadline predictions. It's been kind of quiet here in this last upcoming week until the deadline. I mean, we already saw guys that we expected to get moved like OG Anunoby, Pascal Siakam, and Terry Rozier already get dealt, but it's quiet. It's too quiet. So I'm just going to be going through every single player that I think is going to be in some type of rumor leading up to Thursday's deadline and where I predict that they could end up. And if you guys enjoy these style of videos, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up and let me know in the comments your trade deadline predictions for the 2024 deadline. I'll also be live streaming from noon to 4 p.m. Eastern time on this channel, so make sure you're subscribed and I'd love to catch you guys there. All right, so unfortunately, Zach LaVine is going to be out for the season, so he's not going to get moved on Thursday, but the Chicago Bulls should definitely think about moving DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. I think it's going to be tough contract-wise to move Nikola Vucevic, so I don't think that he gets dealt. But I'm going to predict that the Philadelphia 76ers go out and make a move and acquire DeMar DeRozan. They can easily match DeRozan's salary because they have expiring contracts at Marcus Morris, $17 million, Nicholas Batum, $11 million, Robert Covington, $11.5 million. They also have younger players that Chicago could be interested in, like a KJ Martin and a Jaden Springer. And since DeMar DeRozan is 34 years old, he's a free agent at the end of the year, and contract extension talks with him and the Bulls did not work out. I think he would get dealt for really not too much, and I think Philadelphia would take a chance on DeRozan since they don't have to sacrifice their cap space for this upcoming offseason, and they get an upgrade as their third scoring option after Embiid and Maxey for the 2024 playoffs, because it's looking like Embiid has a solid chance of coming back by then. As for Alex Caruso, I think that he's going to get traded to the Golden State Warriors. Golden State just had a big win over Brooklyn the other night, and this team is still just fighting to be in the play-in tournament spots. They could definitely acquire Caruso without giving up a Jonathan Kuminga, and I think Caruso's value has dropped a little bit, and I think just one good first round pick would get it done. Maybe Moses Moody has to be involved, but hey, maybe this is a chance for Golden State to also get off of the Andrew Wiggins contract if they take on Caruso in a bigger deal. There is a chance that Golden State looks for more of a shot creator or a rim protecting big at the deadline, but they've been linked a ton to Caruso, and I think they get a deal done for the standout guard defender. As for Andre Drummond, I think he ends up in Phoenix. This is a team that also needs some big man depth as well, as they're trying to make a championship run this year. And Drummond being 30 years old, an expiring contract, not the player he used to be, and only making $3.3 million this season, is an easy contract to trade, and Chicago should definitely look to get any second rounders that they can get for him. And I think Phoenix could be a team to get Drummond. So next up, to talk about the Portland Trail Blazers, I think they're going to be quieter at the deadline than we may expect. Like, I think they hold on to Jeremy Grant, Time Lord Robert Williams, and Matisse Thybulle, but one player I do think that ends up getting traded is going to be Malcolm Brogdon. And I do think that Malcolm Brogdon is going to end up as a New York Knick. The Knicks can easily match the Brogdon salary with Evan Fournier's $18.8 million expiring contract. And the Knicks have a plethora of first round picks to include in this trade. And one that could be enticing is them giving Portland Dallas's first round pick this season. Dallas is currently the 8th seed at 27 and 23. There's a solid chance that this pick could end up between picks 16 and 22. That's kind of similar to a trade that the Knicks made with the Blazers last year when they gave up Cam Reddish and a first round pick to Portland for Josh Hart. So Portland could get another first round pick in this 2024 draft. Maybe they even keep Evan Fournier going forward as well, just to have more floor spacing for their young, inexperienced backcourt. But the Knicks, they don't make like the big star name splash, but they go out, they get Malcolm Brogdon, a shot creator off the bench, and something they've been desperately lacking since they traded away Emmanuel quickly in the OG Anunoby deal. So I don't think the Clippers are done making trades this season. We know that they traded for James Harden earlier in the year. They've been one of the better Western Conference teams since that deal went down. And I don't think that they have the assets, or more so the draft capital, to go out and get like a Dorian Finney-Smith from the Brooklyn Nets. But I do think that they're going to pivot to getting PJ Washington from the Charlotte Hornets. They can easily get to matching salary with this deal if they use PJ Tucker's $11 million contract. Charlotte is currently into a rebuild, so they probably wouldn't mind paying him that money next year. They could also maybe ask for one of LA's younger players, like a Kobe Brown, who was just a first round pick in the 2023 draft, or Bones Highland, who has not really been involved too much into the Clippers rotation this season. And I think that could be worth it for Charlotte as well. I mean, Washington is averaging 14 points, 5 rebounds this season, shooting 45% from the field and 33% from three. But if they can get any second rounders, any young players to get off of his $16.8 million contract this year, $15.5 million next year, and $14 million in 2026, I would do so, as they're entering into a full out rebuild. And you could experiment a little bit more with Brandon Miller as a stretch forward. You could look to bring in a new power power forward that's maybe a little bit more mature or a little bit better on the defensive side of the ball, because Washington really hasn't been a good defender since he got drafted back in 2019. And if anything, his efficiency has actually gotten worse since he got drafted, as his shots per game have gone up. As for the Clippers, though, this is basically just trying to get another good offensive depth piece that they could put at the 4 or the small ball 5 at times. Washington isn't a great defender, like I just mentioned, but if he's playing alongside like a Paul George or Kawhi Leonard, they could definitely hide those weaknesses of his game, but then could provide as a nice floor spacing big man for the Clippers as they're trying to win the title in 2024. So speaking of Dorian Finney-Smith, I think he's going to end up with a reunion back in Dallas. Dallas definitely has the assets to get it done with Brooklyn. They could easily get to matching salary at Dorian Finney-Smith's $13.9 million. They could include Grant Williams in this deal, who's making $12.4 million, but is under contract for the next 3 seasons. Rashawn Holmes is making $12 million this year and next year. Maxi Kleber, $11 million for the next 2 years after this one. Dallas can also include their 2026 first round pick, or maybe they can dangle like a Jaden Hardy or an Olivier Maxence Prosper in this deal. And Dallas can bring Finney-Smith back to the Mavericks, where he had some of the better years of his career before being included in the Kyrie Irving deal last year. He's averaging 9 points and 4 rebounds this year, but he's shooting 38% from 3, and he's still a very solid defender, just somebody that could space the floor and play defense next to Kyrie and Luka. Could be great if the Mavericks are trying to make a run in this year's playoffs. I think Minnesota is going to go out and try to acquire a point guard at this deadline to be a backup or start ahead of Mike Conley. You could throw out veterans like Monty Morris, DeLon Wright, but I think they somehow get a deal done for Tyus Jones. So Tyus Jones would be another reunion as well, as he played the first 4 years of his NBA career in Minnesota. Now, Minnesota could easily get to the matching salary of Jones's $14 million if they include Kyle Anderson, but if they don't want to include Slow-Mo, they could package Shake Milton, Troy Brown, and Wendell Moore, which I think would be a great return for Washington if they're able to pull this deal off. Troy Brown has definitely been probably the most solid out of those 3 players for Minnesota this year and is still just 24 years old. And Wendell Moore was a first round pick back in the 2022 draft and really hasn't done anything for Minnesota in the first 2 years of his career. And I feel like it would be silly if Washington does not move Tyus Jones ahead of this year's deadline. I get holding on to Kyle Kuzma since he's under contract. I wouldn't move Daniel Gafford since he's young and actually pretty good, but Jones is a free agent at the end of the year. Let's get some assets for him, Washington. All right, so there's only been 2 teams that have been rumored to be in talks with Dejounte Murray from the Atlanta Hawks. Those 2 teams are the Jazz and the Lakers. So I'm going to say that the biggest move at this year's deadline is the LA Lakers going out and trading for Dejounte Murray. Dejounte Murray is just making $18 million this year before the $30 million a year contract extension kicks in next year, so his contract is very easy to trade for. LA can opt to either include Gabe Vincent, Taurean Prince, and some other players. They could easily just throw in D'Angelo Russell. It seems like a departure between Russell and the Lakers is inevitable at this year's deadline, and people are actually starting to seem like Dejounte Murray is somewhat of a negative asset since his defense is taking a mighty step back this year. And he's due $120 million guaranteed over the next 4 seasons. So the Lakers, like I said, can include D'Angelo Russell to match his salary. They can also include most recent first-round pick Jalen Hood-Schifino that just may need a change of scenery already. They can move their 2029 first-round pick, but I'd expect them to throw some light protections on that. Like, I can't see the Lakers giving up a pick that isn't a top 3 protected pick down the line in 2029 for Dejounte Murray. But hey, they go out, they get Dejounte Murray, they pair him up with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and they try to win one more ring before LeBron ends up either leaving Los Angeles or retires. I do think the Detroit Pistons would have actually acquired Zach LaVine at this year's deadline if he didn't get injured. And I feel like everything is pretty unexpected what's going to go down. I feel like the Milwaukee Bucks could make a move to improve their defense. I mean, they haven't looked great in the, albeit short, era of Doc Rivers. I mean, Cleveland has been playing phenomenal as of late as well. Could they just try to make a win now move now that they have Garland and Evan Mobley back? Donovan Mitchell is playing one of the 10 best players in the league this season. Jared Allen has been a borderline all-star, and they have tradable contracts as well, with Isaac Okoro's expiring and Karis LeVert's contract as well. I could expect the Memphis Grizzlies to move on for some of their younger players just to clear up a little bit more cap for the 2024 offseason. Guys like Zaire Williams, Xavier Tillman, Jake Oravia, David Roddy. I expect Boston to use Grant Williams' trade player exception as well. It's around $6.8 million. Unfortunately, that can't bring them a Kelly Olynyk in return, but it could bring them a DeLon Wright or an Andre Drummond. I would love for Orlando to add a shooter trader. I know it's kind of like a 2K style trade, but imagine they went out, they got Klay Thompson, but I don't think that Golden State is going to move Klay because at this point, you're really not getting a great return for him. So I don't really think it's worth it to say that you traded a franchise legend in Klay Thompson. You just let him leave in free agency on his terms if he wants to. And maybe they're able to move Chris Paul's expiring contract while talking about the Warriors. I don't know if any team wants to really trade for Andrew Wiggins because of his contract and how bad he's been this season. I mentioned before that I think they go out and get Alex Caruso, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do move Paul or Wiggins, or even Kevon Looney as well. And I'll be interested to see if a team like OKC, Sacramento, Denver, New Orleans tries to make a move in the Western Conference to separate themselves from the pack of the teams they're currently in that tier with. But I'm very excited for the 2024 deadline. I hope you guys are as well. Let me know your trade deadline predictions in the comments below. And like I said, I will be live streaming for pretty much 4 hours on this channel starting at noon on Thursday. So make sure you're subscribed so you can come out to that stream. I love you guys and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.